So this is my making of my Seamus Heaney project by me, Molly McNeilis. So basically to begin, I began with research and I had an idea in my head from the beginning what I wanted my project to look like, and I was looking a lot into flat design, and specifically like green colours, navy colours, that kind of thing. And I wanted to create this kind of look that you're seeing here on the screen. So I went into quite a few YouTube tutorials, and you'll see a lot, like I put some of this onto my my WordPress as well, just for reference. And as well for my research, I also looked into stained glass windows, and I went to the chapel in Ardra and also my great auntie's house, as she lives in a really old house, but it still has the original stained glass windows in it. So I went and took a look at those, as well as looking up some Gothic architecture and cathedrals all around the world, and looking at the colours that they had. And even though not many of them are green, they're more like royal blues and red, I think that the green was a bit different, and because it was my interpretation of the poem, I thought that if this is what I thought, I should go with it, and I thought it would be really different. So then we went and visited Seamus Heaney home place in Balahi, which I really enjoyed, and I got a lot of inspiration from being here, especially from looking at all these old photographs of Seamus Heaney's family and reading a few of the poems, looking at all of these timelines. But one thing that stood out to me the most was the colour scheme. There was quite a lot of green going on throughout, which I really enjoyed and really liked. Then I seen this here video that was going on, and I really liked the idea of having everything in a circle. I thought it was quite compact and it drew your eyes straight to what you wanted to see. So I took a lot of inspiration from this. And as well as that, we began drawing, and when we were drawing I seen these windows, and I came up with the idea of doing a stained glass window effect for my project straight away because of the texture and the colours that I seen on these windows. The stills I took were just because I really loved the style of the photo. I love old photographs, and I really wanted my project to have that old Irish feel. Then I began my sketching. So I took the lines of the poems and sketched out what I thought was a good visual for each line of the poem. So after I finished sketching, I decided to do some brush testing on Illustrator. I'd never really drawn on Illustrator before, so it was a bit of a challenge for me, so I was just kind of messing around, seeing what I like, and I found this brush and I thought it was really old style, not too concrete looking, so I did decide to go with this. And I got out a graphic tablet, which I'd never used before, went on Illustrator and scanned in all my images that I'd sketched and drew them out with the graphic tablet, which at the start was really challenging, but I actually ended up enjoying it. So then I had to add colour, and from being in Seamus Heaney home place, I really knew that I wanted to use green colours, so I found this like watercolour effect and started adding it to each scene after being on Adobe Cooler and finding a palette that I really liked. So some colours are more dense than others, and the majority of it is watercolours, but I felt like I wasn't really getting that stained glass window effect, so I decided to look at some filters and to see if that would change the way it looked. Even though I was quite happy, just there was something missing from it. So I found a filter called Cutout, and I started to add that to each and every one of my images. So I brought them into Photoshop and began adding the filter. So erasing and saving. So I came across a problem. I didn't know how I was going to make the images move, even though I knew how I wanted it to look. So basically, I took every image that I already made and began erasing a little bit by bit, and this is what would happen. And I had to save them, so I saved over 200 different types of each image, and then I would have to bring them into After Effects after this. So it took a lot of time, but it was worth it in the end because I really had a nice flow to it. Also, I had to work backwards because I was erasing backwards, which meant having to reverse them and put them another way because I wanted the drawings to form. So this is what's happening here. I'm positioning them each one 8 frames apart, or each 8 frames. They gradually form the picture I want them to. So I did this for every single one. So I had to do this with 200 images. And then what I would do is I would group them together so there wasn't too many. And the more I did this, the more I found it easier, because I was cutting each individual one, and then I realised that I could cut them all as a group and then just place them all one after the other, like so. So I started getting quicker and quicker at it, but it did take around 5 hours to do this, so it was pretty time consuming. I think it was worth it at the end though, because I really enjoyed seeing the finished product. And I knew I put a lot of effort and a lot of work into this, and I really challenged myself because I'd never really done any illustrations or any movement like this before, so I was quite happy with it. So like I was saying earlier, I would group everything together to make it easier for myself. As you can see, I started to get quite quick at putting things together when I knew exactly how far apart I needed them. I'd say that the grouping and positioning and the erasing and saving the image is probably the most time consuming part of the whole project. So after I put all these together, I brought them into Premiere Pro then, so I rendered what I had and brought it in. And I knew in my head what I wanted. I wanted a zoom transition, but for a long time throughout the project I couldn't figure out how I was going to do that. And then near the end of the project I actually figured out how I wanted to do it. So I began using just 2 adjustment layers over my video layer, and I would have to make 9 of the one image and then fold them into each other so there'd be no line visible. And when you zoom in, you wouldn't see all 9, you just see one. So I found this quite tricky to get a hand of because it was zooming far too fast and I could not slow it down whatsoever. So this was one option for me that I could have used as transitioning for the project. As you can see here, it was just zooming far too fast and it didn't really suit the feel of what I was going for my video and for my project. As you can see here in the folds, this is what I was on about, the 9 images that you had to fold. and make sure there was no creases left. But because it was zooming so fast that you could actually end up seeing that there was more images than just the one, so it wasn't really working for me, and as well as that I thought it became quite pixelated. So even though this was an option, I did want to try out some different things in transitions to see if it would suit the video better. Then I began doing titles, and again I wanted to keep this really simple, so I thought a nice grey text on the white really stood out, and I really loved how the fade in and out, so I actually did this in one go. I really liked it that much. I thought it really went with what I was trying to achieve. And then this is another transition that I tried, so it was fade to white, and I thought it really went with what I wanted to do. When I added in the zoom transition, I just thought it was far too quick, like I was saying earlier. So I'm going to go with the fade to white transition or cross dissolve, which I've already tried as well, because I think it goes far better with the music that I have chosen, which is a soft piano piece, and it goes as well with the voiceover, say in the poem. And that's just an example of cross dissolve.